And it is time to continue our draft discussion today here on a Tuesday on One Bills Live. And joining us to do just that is Maddy Glab. And when she's here, you know what that means in pre-draft season.
Mock draft watch.
Mock draft watch. What are we up to? 7.0, right?
7.0.
Nice.
It's all I do with my life. No, just kidding.
Well,
just
in April,
kidding,
yes.
Just kidding. It's the fun thing, the hot topic to talk about right now. So we've done 7 rounds of mock draft watches, and we'll do a few more ahead of the NFL draft as we're in the month of April.
So we've got 129 tracked so far?
I've tracked 129. We're getting up there.
Jeez,
I think we've done more this year than we did last year. The mock drafts just come out so early on in the season now, and there's so many that come out every single week. We try to track the most legit ones from the biggest names in terms of NFL Network, ESPN, CBS Sports, the big guys, because anybody can do a mock draft, right?
Joey Bag of Donuts in his mom's basement's mock draft.
No. So in Mock Draft Watch 7.0, we tracked 15 mock drafts. Of those 15, guys, we're starting to see a trend here. We're starting to see things shift. Of those 15, 6 linebackers were mocked to the Bills. 3 defensive linemen, all of them, in fact, were defensive tackles. 3 wide receivers, 2 running backs, 1 offensive lineman. So you're starting to see linebackers, wide receivers, and defensive tackles maybe take the scene a little bit as we near the end of April. So of those 15, the most favorite this time around, Drew Sanders was mocked to the Bills 4 times, the linebacker out of Arkansas. And then the wide receiver, Jordan Addison out of USC, he was mocked to the Bills 3 times. Of the 15 mock drafts tracked, there was 1 trade. The trade was a trade up to number 23 for Bijan Robinson, everybody.
Grief.
So, yeah.
So that would be, who's 23? Is that Minnesota or is that?
I believe it was...
Right here.
Let me see.
No, Minnesota's...
Is it Seattle?
No, Seattle's 20.
Seattle's 20.
23 is Minnesota.
There you go.
Minnesota, okay. All right.
So that was the latest 15, but of the 129, I think the most interesting thing that we can point out here is the favorite names. So Bijan Robinson continues to be a favorite as he continues to get mocked to the Bills at number 27. There's been some trade-ups for Bijan Robinson out of the mock drafts that we've tracked, but you're starting to see guys like Drew Sanders and Jordan Addison become favorite names. They're tied at being mocked to the Bills, the 4th most out of 129 mock draft tracks. So Drew Anderson has been mocked to the Bills 8 times, so is Jordan Addison. Before those two, Bijan is the favorite still at 22. Osiris Torrance has been mocked to the Bills 17 times. Brian Branch 9 times. And Drew Sanders and Jordan Addison are next. So that's new from the last time I was on.
So it looks like, I think the most interesting thing is early on it was Osiris Torrance show. Osiris Torrance, oh my God, get a guard. And then the Bills signed 2 guards in free agency, and everybody is completely off the train now, understandably so. And offensive tackle has kind of overtaken it as far as picking an offensive lineman.
Yes.
27, right?
Yep. The last time Osiris Torrance was mocked to the Bills was March 28th. The last time an offensive tackle was mocked to the Bills was April 3rd. But offensive linemen in general have not been a favorite position, I would say, really since mid-March, early March. So you're starting to see, I would say linebackers are really starting to shine in the last 2 mock draft watches that we've released.
Yeah, so, and they continue to kind of all trend that way. I mean, it's amazing and just like when you see the whole team end their season, it's that recency bias. You think that's who they are. And when the Bills make any kind of signing, everybody jumps on it and says, they're going to, oh, wow, now they're going to. Plus, I don't want to give them too much credit. We've said it a couple of times today. The Bills have 4 defensive tackles all going into this last year. Their contracts up after this year. it kind of makes sense that they'd kind of at least get one guy in the draft to give him some depth there going forward after this year ends
yeah.
out.
Yes.
Most definitely. And Drew Sanders and Jack Campbell, those are the two popular names among linebackers. We really haven't seen too many other linebackers get mocked to the Bills multiple times at number 27. So
Right. And more often than not, on a lot of top 100 lists, we've seen Drew Sanders ranked a little bit higher than Jack Campbell. Late first round for Sanders, top half of the second round for Campbell. And as Steve and I have talked about on the show, Sanders is just a little bit better athlete than Campbell. Campbell might have him beat in the instinct department. Not that Sanders doesn't have instincts, but Campbell is like rock solid in that area. And I think
he's your A-plus student. Jack
Right.
Campbell's your A-plus student, and Drew Sanders is the guy who kills it in gym class.
Right. But he's not a dumb jock. We
No,
should
he's
say
not.
that.
He's not.
So, but yeah, so it'll be interesting to see where the delineation is in terms of separation between the two guys that are largely considered the top two middle linebackers in the class. I mean, Trent Simpson has snuck in here and there as another consideration, though he doesn't match up size-wise to those two. But generally, we've seen these two guys as the top two names. What's interesting is this has just crossed from Adam Schefter. Bucks Pro Bowl linebacker Devin White has requested a trade.
I just saw that.
Yeah, it came up.
The Bucks do not want to trade him, but he wants to be traded, and he's entering his fifth-year option at about $11 million a year. Now, with that in mind, if you think about it, whoever gets him, let's just say hypothetically the Bills are in on it and they want to land him, pay him $11 million this year, you're going to be right back in the same boat next year that you were this year with Tremaine. Are you going to pay him?
Yeah, but let's look at it this way. Let me give you a different perspective. Yes, you would be back in the same spot. You're going to be there with your defensive tackles. They're all going to be gone. You're going to be there with your middle linebacker again, Devin White. If you pick him up for $11 million, even if you put it as a signing bonus and put out 2 voidable years to cut down on the salary cap, whatever, you're still going to be back there. You've got all these other guys. Gabe Davis is going to be in the last year of his contract. You get all this other stuff happen. Don't get caught up in that, because when free agency hits next year, you're going to have half of every other team available as well. You can sign them. There's going to be guys available. You're going to be able to fill out your roster with quality guys, and you'll have cash to do it because you're going to have there's not going to be any dead cap space.
Yeah,
So
Josh's contract gets fatter and fatter.
that's right. But having said that, you get a chance to interview all these guys on this 1-year deal. And you get to, once again, pick the guys you want to extend. The Micah Hydes, the Jordan Poyers. You get to pick the guys that you, Devin White, or Tre'Davious Whites. You know, you get to pick the guys who are part of your core going forward. Guys like Taron Johnson and Matt Milano and Dawson Knox. These guys that have earned it. You get them in your building for a year, all invested, trying to get their best contract on the next hit and see what you've got. And then you got all those guys and all the free agent market to go from.
Right.
So pick your spot.
You would think that if Tampa knows they have to do this, they're going to try to do it before the draft, because if a team, like the Bills, for example, gets the linebacker they want in the draft,
No
suddenly
thanks, we're out.
they're not in on the bidding.
Say about this. So we just had Okudah go from Detroit to Atlanta for a 5th. Mm-hmm. That was for $1 million contract. What if you can get your boy Devin White for a 7? But you got to take the money.
I doubt that's happening.
And do the Bills
Do you
want to
take
foot
it
the
though?
bill
$11
for,
million bucks.
Or would you rather prefer somebody who can play on a rookie contract for 4 years?
Maybe 5. Yeah,
Knowing the cap situation that they have and that they will have for several years.
It's tempting because, we're talking about a guy who was the 5th pick in the draft. He's 26. I mean, it's super tempting because with where you are now as a team and where you think you're going, you're dropping an all-pro guy in the middle of your defense. It's really tempting. I don't know. I just think financially you're going to be right back where you were this offseason next year at this time, and you may not be able to keep him either. So is your team better served for the continuity of the play caller in the middle of your defense to be locked in for the next 4 or
Okay.
5 years?
So-
or is it better to have the guy who is proven at this level and is all pro caliber?
What you're telling me is signing Devin White is an all-in move,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
I mean, that's what it is.
Not signing him.
Just
Trading
trading
for him.
Trading him, making this deal for Devin White is a signal that the Bills, they're like going, hey,
All the
Jack
chips to the
Campbell,
middle.
you're nice.
Well,
Drew
I don't know
Sanders,
if you
okay.
could-
We're going
Yeah.
to win now with this guy.
Well,
'Cause the money is a problem.
Yes and no, because he's entering the last year of his contract. So it's not
That's
like
the ultimate
it's
win
not
now.
Like, it's not like the 6-year, $120 million for Vaughn. It's we'll pay this guy $11 million this year,
That is a total win now move.
Yeah.
That's a win immediate, like today
Yeah.
move.
and then we'll figure it out after this year.
Yeah.
Is
I'm
that
telling you,
that position more important than other positions
that's
that
the
you
thing,
could
too.
spend
No, what are they? They're spending that on
$8 million
Milano?
on?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. We shouldn't forget that the Bills only have 6 draft choices. I mean, we may see the most undrafted signings here in the McDermott Bean era. Just
Right.
because
Gotta fill
you
out
still
the
got a
roster.
roster to fill out. What do you got, 69 players on the roster,
Yeah.
and you got to get to 90 for the offseason? You only got
Last-
6 draft picks.
Last year they picked up a couple at the end of the NFL draft.
Yeah, I think it's going to be about 7 or
Yeah.
8.
They always do.
Maybe 10.
Everybody does. It's a frenzy because they all have their preferred free agents
Yeah.
as young kids, and so after these kids are sitting around in their dorms, in their houses, in their little parties, and they don't get drafted, their phone starts to ring immediately. It happened with my son when he was at Cornell. I'm telling you, the minute that last pick is made, he got a call from not his representation and a couple of teams. So it just happens that fast. They try and because they're going to get snapped up.
race.
They're going to get snapped up, and
Like
it's
the
all
stock market.
it's like it's like the stock market at the closing bell. You got to get your trades in now, to get the stocks you want. And like you said, do you get a guy like Levi Wallace who turns into a 4-year starter for you, or do you get Joey Bag of Donuts who you wish you're doing it because the guy was your high school coach,
Right.
His cousin was your high school coach. That's the kind of thing that happens. So that's it. It happens fast, and the Bills are going to have to do it with 6 picks. They got some work to do.
Yeah. Maddie, the safety position has also dropped off since you started the mock draft.
Oh yeah.
That's like
I
completely
think that's the
disappeared.
biggest position that's dropped off
Yeah.
since we
And I
started doing the
understand
mock
why.
drafts. I mean,
They brought back not only
Jordan
Jordan, but
Poyer,
then they signed
and
Taylor
then they signed
Rapp.
Taylor Rapp.
So I understand why it's disappeared from the mock drafters, picks for the Bills.
it is
And in the
gone,
fact that
gone.
it's considered to be a weak safety class, and that doesn't help either.
Yeah, so that's where you get these skewed numbers from. That's why Brian Branch was mocked to the Bills 9
Yeah.
times, is because all of that was done really before free agency started.
Yeah,
So-
January, February, and all that. Which once again reiterates the foolishness of doing a mock draft before free agency. And
I know it's tough. It's tough.
I'm not blaming the people that put them together. It's their editors that are telling them, "Hey, you got to do one for us.
Mm-hmm.
Get it up."
Yeah, it's more of a mock drafts before free agency are more of roster evaluations than they are,
Yep.
draft
So
picks.
it really is
Yeah.
throwing darts. I kind of feel for the people that have to put those up.
We've got a few names. Should we talk about those few names?
Yes,
Absolutely.
let's do it.
All right, so I wanted to talk about 2 defensive tackles and an offensive tackle. So Mazi Smith is the first guy we'll talk about. Steve, I know that's a name that you've talked about before because you like him. So this kid is 6'3", 323, redshirt junior, coming out of college football. He's a big player. He's the type of guy that will plug up the middle of the defensive line for you. Per Next Gen Stats, he had the second best athleticism score at the combine. He was first team All Big 12 in 2022. He's played in 35 career games, had 28 starts. He only played in 7 games his first 2 years and has played in 28 in his last 2 years. So has a big amount of tape in his last 2 seasons. He's played in different spots along the defensive line, but started in 14 games at nose tackle in his senior season. So last year he had 48 total tackles, 2.5 tackles for loss, a half sack, and 1 forced fumble. He only has a half sack in his entire career. So when you turn on the tape on this guy, he's got strong arms. He's got power to his punch. He's got a nice swim move that he uses a lot. His strength shows up on tape with the way that he can move offensive linemen to get off blocks. He can chase a guy down. He has good speed for how big he is. I mean, 6'3", 323, and he can move fast.
He ran a 4.85 40.
He's got the width to him.
4.85.
That was at his pro
He can
day.
take on double
He didn't
teams.
run at the combine because he had a hamstring injury.
Yeah. He is unpolished in ways, but you get the upside with his size and quickness, the intangibles there. Some people say that he could be more of a day 2 pick rather than a first-round guy. NFL Network says he needs to be better at taking on double teams and is unlikely to see many passing downs as a pro. What do you guys think about Mazi Smith?
Yeah,
He's got some potential.
Yeah, and that's what you're banking on.
Yes.
Because the production isn't
Only has a
there.
half sack in his
2 years-
entire career.
2-year starter. I think if you like him or you love him, you think he just has to put it all together
Exactly.
and, reach his full potential. If you're worried about him, it's because, oh man, does this guy just get discouraged when a double team comes at him? Like, what's this guy doing? Is he internally motivated? All of that
Right.
stuff that you worry about with these bigger players. But the athleticism is no debate. I mean, there is no debate there, and his arms are almost 34 inches long.
Yeah, he's a short guy, 6'3". I say short. He's 6'3", weighs 323. He's a big dude with long arms
He
and
takes
down
up
inside.
space.
Yeah,
That's
so
what you need.
If he was to be an NFL draft pick at least a day 1, and you want him to play 3 downs, your biggest hope right now in the beginning would be he would soak up a double team, allowing other guys to be singled.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that we'd have to see that because you're on the Bills team, you're going to double Von Miller or chip him, and you're going to try and double Daquan, not Daquan, and maybe Rousseau on the other side or one of those other guys. Mazi Smith is not going to get doubled. He'd better be able to get some penetration.
Right. The knock on him was like taking plays off, conserving energy, those kinds of things. Because there were stretches of games where you just flat out didn't notice him.
Yeah,
And he's playing on a good defense.
He's cherry picking, yeah.
I mean, it's not like it's him and a bunch of guys. He's got quality talent around him. So I think the people that are his detractors say, well, why didn't he show more? Why didn't he produce more? And then there are other people who are like, he just got to put it all together. So he's probably early round 2, maybe he sneaks into the bottom of round 1,
He's
right?
been mocked to the Bills a couple of times. He showed up in Mock Draft Watch 7.0, so that's why I wanted to throw his name out there, discuss him. Another defensive tackle who's shown up a couple times as of late on mock drafts, going to the Bills at number 27, is defensive tackle Bryan Bresee. He's from Clemson. He's 6'5". He's 298, redshirt sophomore. He did tear his ACL in his second year, really his first year playing in terms of how many games that he played. But he played in 26 games over his 3-year career with Clemson. He's the former number 1 overall recruit coming out of high school. He had 35 sacks in high school. He's a 2-time first-team All-American in high school. He did a lot on tape in high school. He got hurt towards ACL in that second season, and he's kind of coming back from that. So the tape in college didn't impress like the tape in high school did. He also contributed offensively in Clemson's jumbo package, so a little bit of versatility there. In his career with Clemson, he has 50 total tackles, 9 sacks, 15 TFLs, 5 passes defense, and an interception. In his final season with Clemson, he had 3.5 sacks, 5.5 TFLs. This guy's light on his feet when you turn on his tape. When he gets loose, it's like a truck coming after a quarterback. He slips past offensive linemen with ease. He's determined to get to that quarterback. It seems like he's hard to even get into a block because he's always on the move. He's a good run defender. He can take on double teams. I think with him, you just need more from him on tape, as he's really only had 2 seasons to play. He only played in 4 games in that 2021 season. He's not a project, but you are taking him on knowing there's growing up that needs to happen. There's growing that needs to happen with him.
Yeah, I mean, the athleticism is readily apparent. Like, there aren't too many 6'5" guys that are this fluid You know, there's some stiffness in their hips or they can't twist and bend. This guy's 6'5". He can bend, twist, flatten, coming around. I mean, they would line him up at defensive end sometimes.
Yeah.
Because at 300 pounds, he could do that. And I'm not saying he's Calais Campbell, but there's athleticism that is similar to Calais Campbell.
And you can't teach that. Those are the intangibles that him and Smith have from Michigan. I think Bryan Bresee has a little bit more of that athleticism, and you see it in the way that he is motivated to get after the quarterback.
Yeah. One thing you notice when you watch him is he struggles to disengage with the blocker, but when he does get a lane to the quarterback, he closes fast.
Oh, yeah.
He
Yes.
can really close on the quarterback. So when he does get a crease in the pass protection, or when he does get around the guy who's trying to block him, and he's a really good, as you see it a ton, they do it with him a ton, he stunts a lot. Because of his athleticism and his ability to run, he can run side to side and get up. That gives him a lane to get up through the quarterback. They use that really well at Clemson. And you see him starting at a defensive tackle and going looping out to the end, or vice versa, looping to the other side of the ball on the pass rush. Because of his speed and athleticism, he can do that and still get home.
And
that's his. But he does struggle just one-on-one going from here to there through one guy to the quarterback.
Right. I mean, I will say this, though. Mazi Smith really didn't have a lot working against him where you say, well, what's going on with the production there? Whereas with Bresee, it's a totally different circumstance. Torn ACL, misses a whole year, and then he's dealing with his younger daughter younger sister who had brain cancer while he was playing,
Right.
and then she ultimately passed away and succumbed to the disease, unfortunately. So
He's been through it.
I think he's going to get a pass from a lot of teams because of what he's had to deal with through his
And
college
he's the
career.
former #1 overall
Right.
recruit coming out of
in
high
the
school.
country,
So
yeah. It'll be interesting too, because he's again, you get to this point where you're picking this guy and this guy and that guy, where you want to sit down with them like we're sitting around this table and saying, okay, what's your story? How you doing?
he's got a compelling story.
right, and he's got and you find out what kind of guy he is.
He played for a big school in Clemson. He's played against great college football teams.
Yeah,
One of the best.
He's an intriguing product. Now he's playing defensive tackle, and he only weighs right at 300 pounds.
298 is what he weighed in at the combine.
I'm
Ed
a-
Oliver's 287.
But you know what? Yeah, I mean, you gotta have some big boys down inside.
Doesn't hurt, and it's not considered a super strong defensive tackle class. So if you really feel like you got to get one, you may want to get one sooner
It's a throwing league too, and this is a
Rather
defensive tackle that can rush the passer.
than later. Right.
In fact, more so than stop the run. In fact,
Yes.
Yes.
Maddie, we are out of time. I want you to hold that one player you had left for next mock
talk
draft
through him
watch
later.
next week because
Yep.
it's Steve's favorite player for the Bills at 27. So we will get to him next time when
Love
you
it.
are back for mock draft watch 8.0. When is that
8.0.
scheduled to go up on BuffaloBills.com? Do you know?
Friday morning, I would say
Friday morning.
8 o'clock-ish, you can expect it up.
Right. And I know that Kuiper just had a mock draft come out today, so that'll be up on 8.0 among others. That's Maddy Glab helping us out with the mock draft watch.